Dale, my friend, it's interesting. We've been friends for several years, many, many years, a decade maybe,
Yeah,
just in
it's been a
the,
while. It's been a
yeah, it
while.
has been a while and it's been in the ecosystem. And boy, we've been through so many startups and ups and downs and world calamities. And
I remember the .com bust, man. I was getting my grad degree, and like this feels a lot like some of that stuff that's happening. The financial services meltdown. Like, I don't know. This one's pretty good too.
this one's pretty good, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's been quite a journey. Let's dive in real quick to just maybe a quick intro for folks to understand your greatness, and
Yeah.
you've been in the game for a while.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Dale Zwizinski, I'm actually starting to switch over to go-to-market officer instead of just revenue officer. I grew up as a coder, product implementation, so I have a really interesting perspective on the product side of the world. Know enough about marketing, really love CS, so kind of connecting all those dots together. I think we've been siloed too long, so doing a lot in the go-to-market, how we can connect all those together. Have a fractional company that I own, and starting to build my own podcast with Adam J. So that'll be fun. Trying to
Shout out to
get,
Adam.
get
Love you,
into a little
Adam.
bit of this stuff. This is a whole new world for me. So trying that out a little bit, and yeah, a couple other little things in the fire. But this is I love doing this stuff. I love having conversations with the community. Anything I can do to give back. I've been blessed. I've done probably over a dozen startup companies in 5 different countries. So I have a bit of an international flair as you do. So I enjoy that when you and I talk.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, just why don't you, I don't know how much you can share thus far of your podcast, but just maybe we can tell folks a little bit about,
Yeah.
where they can start to find it, and maybe what they could look forward to learning.
Yeah, we're going to be dropping it. I won't tell you the exact date, middle of July. We'll be dropping it, but it's going to be a go-to-market podcast. It's going to be called Revenue Reimagined. We're going to, it's so crazy right now. You and I are talking about the economy, but the whole world of from marketing to sales to CS to finance, like it's all connected, but yet we pretend that it's not. So we're going to just bring on people, a lot of people, like people that are on LinkedIn in your feed, although LinkedIn's feed's a little mess now. But
Yeah,
but
what's
then
up with that? Jesus.
they broke the whole thing, man. But I think we'll see what happens. But then a lot of people that you don't know in the go-to-market, like people that I've met over the last like year that have like really inspired me, from especially revenue operations and CS, like those 2 groups of people, because I've always known the marketing people. Like you and I jam. I know a ton of marketing people, so I always jam with them. But revenue operations and customer success, like that whole realm of blending them in has been really eye-opening for me. What's revenue ops? Is it marketing ops? Is it sales ops? Where do they fit? Like they're super important in the process. So yeah, that's what the podcast is going to be about. Looking to make it fun. We're looking to give back to the community. Adam and I feel blessed. But, it's funny. The story around it is like we shouldn't even be doing a podcast together. We kind of compete for business, right? We're both fractional revenue leaders. So it's like, why are we doing this together? And I just find that when you integrate to a community, it's much better. Like I think I got that from my development and product background, like implementation. I got into sales and I'm like, why is everybody like wanting to fight each other? I never got it. It never equated to me. So
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask you towards, further down in this session or this recording, uh, around like collaborative environments. But, since you've just sort of mentioned it, maybe we can dig in there. And
yeah,
to your point, like the best organizations that I have ever been part of, sales organizations, had the best collaborative culture and supporting culture, where like the reps literally wanted their colleagues, the other reps, to succeed, right?
yeah,
Like it baffles
yeah.
me and it was when I got into technology, right? Like I was in like publishing sales,
Yeah.
door to door, direct selling, when that environment existed, and I was part of it. Um, and I just saw what it did, Dale. Like it changed the entire game. And by the way, in that environment, we were all independent contractors who were
Yep.
competing with each other, right, in a
Yep.
real material way. And then I joined like the tech sales world back, whatever that was, 15 years ago, whatever. And I was just like, nobody's working together. There's this like intellectual, also like competition. I'm the smarter person, all the stuff that existed in tech as well, which didn't exist in that other environment. How do we create that collaborative environment? You talk about like the give to receive model, especially now in this remote, setting.
Yeah. I think it's almost like you have to inherently have it. Like I went into places when I got into sales from implementation, and like they're like barring off their CRM, and I just gave people all my contacts. I'm like, good luck. Like I feel the same way. I think there's a mentality that if you give, even if you give your own stuff, like I'll give people frameworks on ideal customer profiles, value propositions, buying personas. Like here, have it. It's not about the stuff that you give. It's about how you actually execute and implement it. So I think like people have to stop thinking about like they have to hold everything. Like there's abundance. Like if you come with the abundance mindset, you're going to be much more successful. And I think that's where I feel super blessed for all the stuff that I've had in my whole world. And I think it's only fair for me to be able to provide that value to other people. I think in organizations, the give to get, like the give to receive type of thing, or giving more than you receive, is more starting from the top down. Like, does the leadership do it? Do they really say what they mean? Can you be a little vulnerable? Like, I think that word, it like scares a lot of people. Like, can you be vulnerable? And if you can be vulnerable, you can like start opening up the giving part of it.
Boy, that really resonates with me, because I just think about all the organizations that had leaders that were vulnerable, that were cared, and it was not just a facade, right? And just and look, even if it was strategic, right? Because if we think about it, it's like having individuals on your team feel that they're cared about is strategic at some level, right? It's even if it's not just 100% altruistic, kind of thing. But there's just so many organizations that don't communicate that, don't exemplify that, leaders that I think that they have to be these like Wolf of Wall Street type of kind of like cultures. And I don't know. I know that sort of permeated a lot of like American business culture for a long time, but I again, I just haven't seen organizations that have sustained happiness, employees who stick around for a long time. When you have that, you might hit short-term goals, and that seems to make sense. I get that. So you might hit that quarter, but let me tell you, if people don't stick around, they don't feel really connected to you, right?
And then as a leader, like you're going to need them at some other point. Like this world's small. You like part of the reason why I got into a lot of communities, especially around COVID, was just to know who's in the market, who's doing the work. In sales and revenue, it's very difficult to find people that are really doing the work. Like there's a lot of talking heads. We see them a lot on LinkedIn. Like there's a lot of talking heads. Like who's actually doing the work? Who's going to dig in? Who's going to execute a social strategy to go talk to people and send good emails? Like, especially now with like a chat GPT, like super easy. Go create me a sequence, and like creates this crap sequence that has no relationship to what you're trying to sell. So like as a leader, you have to be in these communities. You have to be watching. You have to be listening. Is it work? Yeah, it sucks. It's not the best thing. It's like, it's a lot of work. And so I think if you are ready to put that work in, and I think that probably is more about where I end up giving as well. Like I have a lot of knowledge. Like I've been studying ChatGPT now since, the public release. And I'm like, it's been out way past that. And like, if someone's asking like, how do I get prompts, or what do I do for this? Like, here's a bunch of prompts that I have. Like, go play with them and see if you can learn it. They still have to do the work, even if I give them the prompt.
Yeah. Yeah, they still have to do the work. You still have to knock on those doors, right?
Yep.
Like my training always, early sales training always pointed to. What let's exactly, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about, these challenges that you're seeing right now.
Yep.
What's today's date? Today is June 30th, 2023.
Yep.
Um
Last day of the second quarter. Here it
yeah.
is.
What are the challenges that you're seeing your clients or, sales teams dealing with right now? I know that, we've been in this weird economic kind of, I hate to even use words like downturn and all that because I think it's acknowledging, it's negative stuff, but there has been an impact, right? Like
Yeah.
whether we want to, or how deep it is, and how much of an impact it really should have made without people just freaking out and making knee-jerk reactions, which I think there was a lot of that. But given what you're seeing right now, what are the biggest challenges?
Yeah, I'm going to give you two themes. The first one is just top of funnel demand generation. Like it's tough. Like people are struggling. And I think we've made it worse with AI because people are like, it's just more noise. Like it's just so much noise. People aren't getting back to basics. And this kind of affects marketing and sales. Like it's the demand generation at the top of the funnel. It's getting the right qualified people in the funnel. People like email's broken, man. Like people are not responding to emails. They get too many of them. Actually, one of the strategies is go back more phone calls. Like people are starting to pick up the phone. They're fine with people, calling cell phones. Like it's getting into that realm. So that's the first one. I think people are struggling with that a lot. And I have an idea for that. The second one is the customer success world, like because now you can't get top of funnel. Now everyone's looking to like expansion, right? And I think both have a bit of a challenge. So on the top of the funnel piece, I actually think I've talked to several people about this. Building affiliate type networks, but individual affiliate networks. So many of the great salespeople are like screw off to the companies because they're not loyal. Like, look at it, it's not only like the small startup companies that you think those are the people that are going to be like more shaky or risky. It's the Amazons, the Googles, the Microsofts, the Adobes. Like all these people are laying off hundreds of thousands of people, right? So a lot of these people that are leaving are like, I'll just start up my own business. I'll just do my own thing. I'll be like a fractional salesperson. I'll be a fractional BDR. I'll be a fractional XYZ. And so where I see this going is a place where you can leverage your network to the people that you've already sold to. And if the B2B tech companies actually start thinking really well about it, they can actually leverage these networks, reduce their overhead, their CAC will go down, but their LTV could go up. Because you're going to have better clients coming in the door, hitting your ICP. Like there's a lot of challenges in this model. Like this model isn't for everybody. It's a little bit out thinking. And actually, I will say it. I do think that AI is not going to kill the BDR. I think this model will kill the BDR. And I think it's just a matter of time till people will like companies don't own your outside of 9 to 5. And so whatever you're doing on the outside of 9 to 5, if you can like make introductions and they either give you a commission, a bonus. Once again, there's some infrastructure and some challenges around some of that stuff that I've been thinking about. So that's one side. You have any questions on that one? That one's a big one.
Yeah, I mean, I do, just in observations too. Just I've seen more fractional X, than I've ever seen before. And one of the challenges that I have come across when I've done kind of fractional stuff was contact switching, especially as a sales rep, right? Like, what I found was like, as a salesperson, it was really hard for me to say, oh, I'm only going to work, just call it 5 hours on Tuesday and Thursday, and that's it. Well, prospects, they're going to reply when they if they ever even reply these days, right? They're going to reply on their own schedule. They're going to have a calendar that's not going to fit in there. And as a salesperson, like my productivity always came from when I was exceeding the status quo, when I was working that that extra hour or 2 or 3 or 4, above my 9 to 5, right? When I was staying at the office till 10 o'clock at night,
Yeah.
right? That's when when the extra effort was put into place, and I
Yeah.
would really crush it.
Yeah.
So fitting into that fractional, I've always found very difficult.
Yeah. Let me unwind something. I don't think it'll be fractional salespeople necessarily. Fractional BDRs, maybe. Fractional salespeople, maybe not as much, because you can schedule your time. You're right about that. The second thing I want to unpack there, because I think it'll be more about their network. So many people have built really good networks on LinkedIn. The good people have really sold. So it'll really just be about making the introductions. Like, can I make introductions from one company to another? Monetize that introduction. Like, why are people not monetizing their networks? Like, people are doing this in the B2B influencer space, the B2C influencer space. Like, so a lot of these people have really good networks and can make good introductions. Now, there's a lot of challenges to this model. I could probably create a whole podcast around this model, because I think there's a lot of questions, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of cynics, but I do think this will kill because this will solve the top of the funnel problem. And unpacking one other thing that you were saying, which was, exceeding on the 9 to 5. I think that's great if the company rewards it. I don't think many companies are rewarding it anymore. Like, there's no loyalty. There's no like, great, you helped us out. Like, go take a couple of days off. Like that stuff doesn't exist anymore. Like, I think like employees and people in companies there's no loyalty to the employees. So the employees like, F you, there's no loyalty to you. So I agree with you. Like, I think that's the way it gets done, but you have to have a good culture. People don't leave companies, they leave leaders.
Yeah,
So.
for sure. Why is that, Dale? Because I feel that all the time.
Mhm.
Like, not even just in tech, just in general. Like, I
Mhm.
call the bank and I'm like, they transfer me to 8 different people. No one has a clue and no
Yeah.
one cares.
Nope, no one cares. And it starts at the top. No matter what it is, banking, B2B tech, it doesn't really matter. Now, on the other side, on the CS side of the world, I think what's going to happen there is we're going to have to train our CSMs to be like better listeners on the sales world. And so I'd love to start working with some CS people, CS leaders, and working with a couple of them to see if I can create like some ask me anythings, like revenue ask me anythings. Like, what is it that you want to know? Do you want to is it the ICP? How do you do expansion? Because now every investor is looking at NDR, NRR, whatever you want to call it. Like, ARR is great. You're going to need ARR. But if you're losing stuff out of the bottom of the funnel, the leaky boat syndrome, and so much pressure is being put on the CS team that have never had pressure before. Like, they're like, let's get renewals. Let's make sure customers are happy. Let's go through, like, make sure they're using the product. Now it's like, okay, you got to expand. You got to, like, it's like, we're just like squeezing the toothpaste bottle or tube, and like stuff squirting all over the place. And it's like, how do we keep that symbiotic relationship happening?
How do we even begin to start and determine that CS is going to do expansion and those sort of things, right? When there are certain organizations where sales was also in charge of expansion, and then also in some cases retention, right? There is a model, especially with the PLG stuff. I know there's like certain models, incentive models, where like you have to make sure that as a salesperson that a customer sticks around for X period of time, and then you'll get paid out based on that.
Yeah, well, it comes back to like what's your LTV and like what's your CAC. But I want to add one other thing that I've been thinking about a lot lately, and then I'll come back to your question. It's like your real customer ROI. So forget about lifetime value, but your real customer ROI would be the money they spend minus CAC minus cost of service, right? No one's really focusing on the cost of service. And so if we look at the cost of service, like that customer still may not be net gross profitable, right? And so how do we figure out cost of service? How we help, like, there's a couple of things. I think we have to come in with empathy. I think you have to start with empathy and figure out, like, do they even want to do it? Like, there's a compensation challenge. There's like, now you're going to have the AEs fighting with the, like, there's a lot of like little balancing acts. And I think it comes back to strong leadership. Like, what's the vision? Why are we doing it? How does it affect you? How can it help you? Right. And so many people are like, go do this without telling them how it's going to help them, how it's going to affect their business. Like, what is going to be better for them? It's always about what's better for the individual giving the order, I guess is a good way to put it. So I think finding out if they can and want to, and then if they can and want to, how do we educate them in the right way? Like, you and I, like, we never got sales training. It's not like you go to school and like they teach you how to sell. No, you go to school and like you learn, economics, and you learn like trigonometry, but you don't, like, there's no sales class. So you got to give them, and that's why I'd like to figure out a way to do like an Ask Me Anything for an open community, to have like conversations with people and like ask me questions like how do you define an ICP? Like, what does a buying persona mean? What are buying signals? Like, if they say this, does that mean that we should try to sell them something? So
you mentioned earlier AI and the impact of it. Like, boy, I have a lot of mixed feelings about it. I think, like the V1 of what we've been seeing definitely has its value. It's first of all, it's not there yet completely, right? It definitely does help, but I also think that there's this impact that people haven't talked about, which is the impact that it's going to have on us just thinking, right? Like being creative and thinking for ourselves and engaging our brains as a human, right? Like, if your AI is just writing everything as a salesperson, you're not really digging in. Like, one of the things that I've been doing, and I gotta give a shout out to my co-founder Justin, who's just phenomenal at this.
He's a rock star. Like, this dude's a rock star. Go follow Justin.
Yeah, Justin's awesome. His note taking is fucking amazing. I mean, like I've never seen it before. Like, I would be like, dude, were you even, like, obviously you were paying attention to the call, because like it's a freaking transcript of the whole thing. It was just amazing. But my point was that he takes that notes, and this is something that I'm doing now as well. Takes those notes and then rewrites them, puts them in a Slack channel and all that. And as I started to really kind of like do that same thing as we've been doing, these beta feedback thing, the last couple months, customer discovery, whatever, customer development, whatever you want to call it. I just couldn't help but just see the value of, like, when I write the thing myself, what it does for my critical thinking, understanding of what just happened, etc. And I'm really worried that if AI is writing everything and just doing everything, like, what that's going to do for us, right? In the same way that we started to become obese when cars came out, right? You know what I'm saying? And what's going to happen, right? Like, I don't know. I'm actually really worried about that, outside of the other stuff, just because I've seen what it's done to me too. There's a couple of times where, I was writing blog posts, myself using, ChatGPT, and I was just like, boy, I don't even know what the hell I wrote. Because it did it, and maybe I personalized certain sections of it, but it didn't really give me that sense and also that expression as well, as a writer, right? So I wanted to throw it out there. What's your take on AI?
Yeah, it's an interesting perspective, actually. I do think that there is the critical thinking aspect of it, but I also think, like, I have two kids, right? My kids are now 17 and 14. And one's going off to college, and I could say the similar thing, like when they were growing up, there was the iPhone coming out and the iPads, and like, where are they critically thinking? I don't think we're going to know the true impact of everything, even in like how it affects kids' brains or like whatever, for a long period of time. I say that because I think it's going to be the same thing with AI. Like, I think we're going to have the same challenges. What is it going to actually be? How's it going to affect? Yeah, and it's interesting you're talking about note taking, because now there's all these note takers, right? And so you get these note takers that just send you everything in Slack, and it's like, if you don't go through it and read it and organize it, because I do the same thing. Like, every meaningful conversation, I'm writing notes, and I may write it in a notepad or I may write it in OneNote. I used to do mind mapping, so I would mind map it, and then I would take the mind map and write the notes, because then it like triggered, like the words would trigger off, and then I would write the notes off of the mind map because you couldn't take it from the mind map. But I think it will affect the way you actually critically think through the process if you don't continue to do the work, right? Like we're automating things to make it easier, but what's the cost? Like there's always a cost to something. Just because you can do it faster doesn't mean it's going to be better, right? So do you do it like, and eventually I think what will end up happening is people will appreciate that it's written, or you call, or you send a handwritten message, or like it's going to go back to like when we were knocking on doors.
Yeah, totally.
I don't know about knocking on doors, but yeah,
it's still a model that exists. My buddy runs, my buddy Dustin, who I haven't talked to him in a while, so maybe I've been downgraded to acquaintance, but he runs this company still out of Nashville, Tennessee, and they go out and sell door to door these college kids every summer, and it's still around. And I think what they're selling is different now. I think they're selling like digital subscriptions and stuff. So it's the products have evolved, but that model is still
it's still around. It still happens. I think the only challenge is like you have to go after AI hard, because like it's not going to go away. Like this thing is here to stay. Like I'm a big fan of Malcolm Gladwell, like the 10,000 hour rule. Like you just got to dig in, start doing it, go through the process, understand what it can and what it can't do, and just be super aware. Like be self-aware as well. Like what you're good at, what you're not good at. Can you automate stuff? Can you not automate stuff? And don't lose the human interaction. Like a lot of these communities that, I'm in like 800 Slack communities. The ones I enjoy the most are when I can get on a Zoom call and like jam with people and just have conversations. And now we're getting like more back in person. Like I was just up in Boston last week at the GTM Partners event, Sangram. Yeah, the group is like killer, man. Like the knowledge that comes out of the people that are in those groups are like really good. So I've been enjoying that a lot. So I'm hoping to do a lot more in-person stuff happening coming soon. So
nice. Well, Dale, if folks want to follow you, first of all, thank you again for hopping on and talking shop, and looking forward to checking out your podcast. Shout out again to Adam J, the Florida crew. We're all here in Florida. Who would have thought? 20 years ago I went, or I guess 18 years ago now, I went to the Bay Area thinking that was the only way, and now we have a new world. So that's cool. But if folks want to like follow you on social, maybe start to listen to your podcast when it launches, or maybe even hire you for some of your services. What are the best like channels to reach you?
So LinkedIn's always good. You can always hit me up there. The Sales Change Agent's my website. Revenue Reimagined is the podcast, so that has its own website and landing page. So those three places are probably the best. And then like if anyone wants anything, just like reach out. Let's have a conversation. Like I'm here to help. Like if you have, like I'll be happy to coach anybody for 30 minutes and like have some kind of conversations. I learn as much in coaching as everybody else, but and if I can't do it, I just tell you I can't do it. Like don't be offended.
Awesome. Dale, big hug, my brother. I should be coming up to see my mom hopefully soon.
Good.
And maybe we can grab a beer or something.
Let's go on the boat. We'll go on the boat.
Even better. All right, my friend. Well, have a great day, and thanks so much again.
Thanks, man. Have a good one.